Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and it's our favorite time of the week. We are taking a look at the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves. Let's check them out. Alright, first up we have a zero tolerance factory special series knife. Essentially a limited run of the ZT470. This one in S110V blade steel. Very cool to see that kind of back in the ZT lineup. They had used it for a while there on a few different models, but it's been a long time since we've seen something with this much edge retention on a ZT knife. Price on this is considerably a bit higher than some of those, or some of the previous versions of this knife. Coming in, actually it's not too much higher. It is higher, but not by an exorbitant amount actually. $340 compared to $292 for the 20CV version. Not too bad, all things considered, because on top of that blade steel upgrade, you're also getting black DLC finish and this copper inlay on the front. Brushed copper looks fantastic. The finish on the blade, or handle especially, actually looks really cool. I thought it was black, but in person it's more of like a reflective graphite type of finish in a way. It looks really, really cool. Because of that graphite-like coloration, you get a little bit of contrast with some of the other bits of hardware too. You can see the clip, the pivot, and the backspacer are a deeper black than the handle itself. So cool to see as well. The blade, it's 470 all the way, 3.4 inches, hybrid blade. This is one of those like ZT and Kershaw things where it's a drop point, but it's not. It's actually a clip point with the straight clip here, but they put some facets on their spines sometimes that technically make things a little harder to classify, even if it doesn't actually change things too much, but it looks pretty cool. High flat grind. S110V is going to hold an edge a good long time, one of the best you can get in a stainless steel these days. Not exceptionally tough, however, so even though ZT has kind of built their reputation on being hard use knives, you're probably not going to want to be doing a lot of twisting and hammering and prying with this sort of blade. Not that you would want to do that with a folder anyway, in my opinion. Save that for your hard use fixed blades, but also keep in mind the steel you're going to be dealing with on this particular knife. As far as a cool looking everyday carry, however, it certainly is that, and you've got a ton of edge retention there. Lockup feels great. Ball bearings in the pivot. Gives us some really nice flipping action overall. It's just a well-considered average sized knife for your daily use. Now, I didn't mention it yet, but that knife, the 470, was designed by Dmitry Sinkovich. We also have a 450 right here. Another Sinkovich design. This one customized, anodized here in-house with the purple haze Chidori finish on the titanium front slab here. Price on this knife coming in about $265. And this is honestly one of my more favorite ZT designs, at least in the current lineup, because it's kind of got that just right size in a way. Not too big, not too small, it's just a pocket knife. Just does the job quite nicely. 3¼ inch blade, S35 VN, titanium frame lock, ball bearing pivot. Recipe that's tried and true from zero tolerance at this point. Standard pocket clip also customized there with kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? I almost said battle washed finish, but that's a Benchmade trade name for some of their finished things. Also looks kind of like the battlefield pickup stuff from Hinder, but that's also not a term that ZT at least would be allowed to use.
I'm still gonna say cappuccino.
I was gonna say more like rugged apocalypse finish or something like that. It looks pretty good. And you've got the red barrel spacers there at the back. Nice profile when folded up and placed in your pocket. Easy flipping, snappy flipping thanks to the ball bearings. Yeah, just really cool, and you'll see these popping up a little bit here and there. We've done a few, we've had our guy here in the office do a few titanium knives from across the spectrum, a few different makers with this finish. So you can search Chidori if you're looking. I don't know what else we have in stock right now that may be Chidori'd. Let's find out. We've got bug out scales from Berkshire Forge. That's really cool. Some DSK Tactical VXs. That's really cool. Some Hoback back slips. Some Spyderco sway backs. A lot of sway backs right now, actually. Some really cool looking ones. So there's some cool stuff to take a look at. Maybe we'll do a link for Chidori stuff down in there, which would be nice because it'll always show what we have or don't have.
That'll work.
That'll work. Cool knife. And now moving on to something that is an exceptional value, the Kershaw Link. Very cool knife. Kershaw, obviously, well, if you aren't familiar, they've been around quite a while, so you should be familiar, but is of course the more, or offers more budget offerings compared to ZT, which is kind of their flagship premium brand. This right here is a great knife and one of the best bargains under $100 for not just a US made knife, but any kind of high performance knife. And previously you could get it in a green aluminum handle. Now it is available in black as well. And even though it's a little bit more expensive than the green one was at $99.95 right now, it still remains an exceptional value. 3¼ inch blade, 20 CV blade steel, aluminum grips, speed safe assisted opening action. And depending on who you ask, that may or may not be the one kind of quote unquote drawback to this knife. But again, for the materials you're getting at this price point, it really is phenomenal. And the design just works really well. I'm honestly a big fan of it. The grips sit at a really nice point. They're not super thick. They're not like chunky pocket boat anchor type of handles, but yet they still fill the hand quite nicely. Lot of strength there in a grip and a really cool slicey everyday carry blade shape. Bit of a hybrid profile going on. Mid-height, slightly higher than mid-height flat grind there. Thin enough blade stock that it's great at long slices when you add in this continuous curved belly, and you've got a very acute tip for opening packages and clam packs and getting under zip ties, all that sort of thing. Really works great. Deep carry pocket clip, it is reversible. The liner lock, of course, is right-hand biased, however. Stonewash finish on the blade. It's got just about everything you need at a really great price. All right, next up we have the Fox Saturn. And actually, I'm gonna start with the less expensive version first, which you can see right here. First off, let me say we have several variants of this knife, all dropped at once. 9 different options, ranging in price from this right here, which is about $205, up to, let's sort this high to low so I can see the high price. And I'll show you that knife in just a minute. $935. Yeah, man. This one right here has an aluminum handle. We've got an N690 blade running about just over 2.5 inches, and it has their radial plunge lock. There we go. First debuted on the Fox Radius, which had a slightly more conventional blade shape than this right here, but the way it operates, kind of like a hybrid between a button lock and some kind of out the front slider, basically. You push the button down and you rotate it around the pivot. It may look like it would be a little cumbersome, but once you're used to it, it really isn't. You're not going to be flicking the blade out in the same way you would others, but you can still get a little bit of that. Really cool. And what's really nice about it is a few things. You folks know I love what I call a finger safe lock, in that it's something that allows you to operate it all the way from open to close without ever having your fingers cross the travel of the sharpened edge, which is really nice. And for those that may be worried about some button lock designs out there of inadvertently unlocking the blade if you're like choking up and doing it like a heavy pinch grip, much less likely to happen with this design right here. Even if you were kind of really choked up and you happen to push down on that blade, it's not like the blade is going to pivot freely from where that button is. So you would also have to physically move that button along its path of travel to get it to close, which, like I said, is very unlikely to happen. And you've even got a little bit of protection from that from these kind of fake quillions right here that may catch on your finger to keep it from moving. It's a really cool design. I love the symmetrical shape here. That handle, it's not just decorative, but it works in a lot of different grips, which is really nice. And the milling on it is just super awesome. This one has some orange with kind of a bit of blackness kind of That's the word I'm looking for. Like around the edges, so to speak.
Antiqued.
It's a little bit antiqued, yeah. We'll go with that. It looks really cool. But things move up from here. You can get titanium handled versions upgraded to stuff like M390 steel, or you can just go all the way to the top with this one right here. Coming in at, like I said, about $935. You've got copper layers on the blade steel right there. C70 is the steel, apparently. I'm unfamiliar with that, but it's a carbon steel, and you've got the copper layers in there as well. Really cool, kind of shiny PVD finish on the blade. The handle has PVD finish as well, but it's a little more matte. Nice gold anodized accents all around. Nice milled pocket clip on these knives. Just impressive. You can see the layers of copper there on the tang of the blade there when it's closed too. Very, very cool. Another thing that's nice is this is something that's pretty unlikely to come open inadvertently as well, because until you push the button down to open it, same way as when you go to close it, it's not going to move. You can't use this as a flipper. You're not going to use this leading edge as like a pocket deployer like an Emerson Wave. You got to push that button down and rotate open. Now, I'm not sure if this knife is limited in nature or not. I will say, however, it is serialized. This is serial number 040, as you can see right there. And it's special beyond just the knife, which is really cool. Just look at it's very cool. Even the packaging, check that out for that particular knife. They gave it something a little extra versus the standard, quote unquote, standard versions here. You got some stuff going on inside, as one would expect. This is probably not interesting. There's probably nothing under here. Oh, there's a nice pouch. I lied. Maybe it is interesting. There we go. Sorry, Thomas. Bad angle. But anyway, we'll put that away because the packaging is nice, but it is all about the knife at the end of the day. And the knife itself. I don't know. What do you think? I think it's awesome. Those foxes are Italian made, of course, and we're going to stick with some more Italian made knives. Just launched this week the MKM Makro fixed blade, designed by Jesper Vaknes. And these knives are really, really sweet. And I gotta say, so I saw these originally at SHOT Show earlier this year. And essentially, you can kind of think of it as an enlarged micro, or Micro, which is the way they pronounce it, which is a pocket fixed blade that's been in the MKM lineup for at least a couple years now at this point. And sure enough, it looks kind of exactly what you might expect an enlarged version to look like. But SHOT Show moves super fast. We are bombarded with stuff when we are at that show. So a lot of stuff, you see it, but it doesn't always sink in to the same degree as it does when you've had time to spend a little more time with it. And I've been looking at these knives for a couple of days now since we've got them in, and I am really taken with them. The lines on either blade shape, the drop point or the modified sheep's foot here.
You sure about that?
It's a modified sheep's foot, Thomas. It's not a reverse Tonto. Says so on the website.
Disagree.
You're free to disagree, but that's fine. But back to my point, the lines on these knives are wonderful. I mean, they're just so well laid out. They're beautiful. To say nothing of the beauty of some of the handle materials on offer as well. Let's see, carbon fiber handled versions of this knife come in at about $175. You've got an M390 blade, just under 3 inches, and micarta versions, of which this is the green here, come in at about $155. Pretty reasonable considering the materials, I would say. And the feel is excellent. My hands are slightly larger than average. I've got pretty much a 3.5 finger grip on the knife, but I can kind of get a full gorilla grip on it at the same time. A little bit thicker on the blade stock. We're dealing with, 0.15 inches. So it's not a super thin slicer, but you do have a high flat grind to kind of counteract that a little bit. Reason being is you can get this as a skeletonized version without the handle scales as well. So you still have enough width on the tang, enough thickness on the tang for it to be comfortable without having to, paracord wrap it or do something else. And in typical MKM fashion, crown spine all the way around. Feels simply wonderful as well, in addition to looking very cool. But it gives you that nice bit of comfort. There's no kind of sharp edges to bite you as you manipulate different areas of that blade. Super awesome. Fantastic everyday carry blade, fixed blade as well, because they maintained a magnetic pocket sheath. A little bit different from that which is offered on the Micro, but you have a magnetic flap right here, so you can slide this into your pocket and magnet it to the outside. So you'd see this bit of kind of leather flap hanging out. Well, you'd see a bit of blade hanging out too, I would say, because they're not going to be quote unquote deep carry in this kind of case. And then you can either slide the whole thing out when you go to draw it or push off with your thumb and work that blade out so that the sheath stays in your pocket. You could of course run this neck fashion too, real easy to wrap that around some kind of loop right there. And there's a Kydex sheath kit available as well for about $55, and it comes with attachment hardware, it comes with cordage, it comes with a couple different options for attachment hardware actually too, which is also very cool. So as mentioned, the designer of this Italian-made knife was Jesper Vaknes. We have another Italian-made knife coming up next, co-designed by Jesper Vaknes and Jens Anso, because it is part of their GiantMouse kind of collaborative brand. This is the ACE Grand. Really sweet knife, coming in at about $240 for this version. M390 blade and a red micarta handle, red canvas. There is also a new orange G10 version that comes with an LMAX blade, coming in at $195 right now. And it's one of the larger GiantMouse production knives out there. Blade itself comes in about 3.3 inches. Blade itself, I think, is very voxy in nature. High flat grind, kind of a signature shape and a signature opening hole shape for him. And the handles feel excellent. They're contoured, have a nice matte texture to the micarta that gives you a little bit of grip. And then of course, especially that type of finish on micarta, when that material gets wet, it starts to feel a little bit tackier. So you're gonna be able to maintain your hold quite nicely. And I love the black hardware all around too, including that deep carry pocket clip, which is reversible, black stonewashed finish on the blade. Overall, just a fantastic EDC with a little bit more reach than most of the GiantMouse ACE folders in the lineup. Very cool. All right, next up we had some Benchmades drop this week. One today, this one earlier this week. The Redoubt is here. Two versions. You have got partially serrated or plain edge right here for $162. And in a way, even though the Griptilian is still here, at least for now, this kind of reminds me a lot of the Griptilian, and a lot of you folks kind of think the same thing. So we'll get to a comparison of that after I kind of describe what you're getting with this knife. First off, a 3.55 inch blade, CPM D2, so it's the premium powder metal version of your kind of everyday D2. As such, you get a lot more toughness out of the CPM version because of its fine grained structure from the particle metallurgy process. It's also going to be a little bit easier to sharpen too, which is never a bad thing. Still is only a semi-stainless, so we've got a coating in this case. I believe it is a Cerakote, but we don't mention it per se. It's got a little hint of texture right there. And the handles, like the Griptilian, are extremely neutral and made of Grivory as well. Gray Grivory with a green kind of wraparound piece here at the back. And that piece here at the back sits on the outside. I had to check here just to make sure. It's not providing any kind of structural integrity to this handle. It's simply a kind of grip panel that is fit over top of the standard Grivory part of the handle. And we've got a deep carry pocket clip here, which can be reversed, mounted from the tail, sticks out a little bit. So this is one of those very true deep carry clip options if that's what you are looking for. Really nice thing. This is part of their black class, so they're kind of advertising it towards a kind of tactical consumer. And I think it's going to work great there. The blade itself, however, is not just tactical. It's kind of all around super useful drop point shape with a high flat grind and a long swedge that's going to work really well at your everyday slicing, especially with that bit of kind of point of drag along the spine removed by that swedge. It's really nice. And for the tactical uses, you've got plenty of grip in that handle, and you've got a bit of finger guard protection there at the front. which is nice. Rest of the knife, just like the clip, is ambidextrous because of the dual thumb studs, and of course the axis lock, which right out of the box feels oh so good. A lot of, I feel like Benchmade has been getting even better with their quality control on their axis locks, because every once in a while, it used to be more often, some of them would feel a little tight, not quite as smooth out of the box, but it's been a while since I've pulled a Benchmade that hasn't straight away been quite excellent. Interesting. Could be coincidence. Might not be though. Now, because so many of you folks are asking, how does this kind of compare to the Griptilian? I just happen to have one of our exclusives right here. And yeah, the blade length is technically a little bit longer, but not enough to make any kind of real day-to-day difference. I'd say the main difference between the two here is, I think the blade on the Redoubt is going to be more slicey, probably more everyday friendly, but I think the Griptilian is still a little bit more comfortable. So if that's your thing, probably go with the grip. Even though, of course, everyone's hands are a little bit different. But for me, the Griptilian on comfort is still a little bit better. Price-wise, this does give me a chance to kind of plug these exclusives. $150 for the satin blade version in 20 CV with red handles. Black coated comes in at $160. So that's right about the same as this CPM D2 Redoubt. So it's a good chance to talk about both of those knives. All right, next up we have a new version of the Meatcrafter, which dropped today. Price on this one is $270, and it comes with an S45 VN trailing point blade. Full flat ground with a stone washed finish, nice and thin before it's ground super thin. So this is a just wicked slicer. Intended primarily as a game processing knife. However, I've always said this is going to make a great addition to your kitchen as well, because you could pull some fillet knife duty. It has a little bit of flex to it, kind of a low flex fillet knife. Great boning knife, great just meat slicer as well. I will say with these versions here, the full tang versions with the flared tubes, if you're using it in a kitchen scenario, just make sure to keep those good and clean, because those are some spots where kind of bacteria could get in a little bit if you're not too careful and not taking good care of the tool. But you're all taking good care of your tools, right?
It better be. We'll find you.
Thomas will find you. I don't have time to go find these people. I got stuff to do. I got a kid. I got a new house. I got to go home.
I got time.
Thomas will find you. The steel is a cool thing, cool upgrade. Standard version of this comes with a CPM 154. Just like the CPM D2 we talked about, it is the powder metal version of 154 CM. So same things apply. Similar edge retention to 154 CM, but more toughness, better edge stability as well. There's also another version of this knife available with S45 that comes with a black carbon fiber handle and a bright orange blade. It's a little too garish for me. I like the more traditional look of this one right here with the OD G10. You do get that orange ring there at the back, which is cool, and that excellent steel and that excellent finish in my mind, that stonewash finish, of course. Now, these aren't primarily intended to be kind of carried on the belt. As such, it comes with a simple, I believe it's Bolteron. I believe it's not Kydex, but makes no difference really. Positive retention on the sheath, but it's more of a scabbard. You can slip it in to your cooking kit, your hunting kit, what have you. But if you did want to belt carry it, just throw a standard size tech lock, or a small tech lock will work with this setup as well, and that'll get you sorted really readily. We have another trailing point knife. Next, a new tops, the Sonoran. This version coming in about $128. 1095 steel, as most kind of classic topses are. 3 3/4 of an inch long, decently thick. That's probably about 5/32 of an inch thick, with a flat saber grind there. Looks almost like a puko, except the tip is kind of going up there right at the end. But it almost has puko-esque vibes. It's like a trailing point puko, perhaps. Yes, no, maybe so. I don't know. Hey, that all rhymed. I didn't even intend that.
It's gonna be a long day.
Poet and didn't know it. Tan G10 handles, slim, black liners, bolt-on construction here. Actually, we do have one flared tube there, so I'm not sure these scales are actually removable as such, but keep that in mind. But nice, small outdoor knife. Be a good hunter if you like the thickness of the blade here. You've got that sweep of belly right there. I wouldn't really use this for food prep too much. I think it's a little too thick for that, but a really good wood carver, small, survival-esque knife. Again, if the trailing point thing is your bag, feels solid, just like any Tops does. And the sheath, not in Tops' usual fashion, although it's not that unusual, comes in leather. Nice thick welts on the edge, double stitched, survival whistle attached. Overall, just a really cool pattern, and one of the more kind of traditional feelings of a lot of Tops' things right there. Has some of those Scandinavian vibes, as I mentioned. I don't know if that's exactly what they were looking to when they designed it, but I do see that. The handle itself is neutral, not a lot of finger guard to get in the way, no pretensions of tacticalness, just no nonsense hard work. Next up, we've got kind of a few old or new old cold steels. Old steel. That was terrible. I'm very sorry, folks. C''old steel. First off is the Kobun, but this is just one of several essentially colorway updates. We've got Kobuns, we have SRKs, SRK Compacts, 4MAX Scouts, we've got Recon 1 Spear Points, tie lights. I think that's it. Several of these, not every one of these models is coming in every one of the colors I'm about to describe, but they come in a few of them in each case. A few different handle options. We've got the OD green, there's a desert tan and an earth brown, I think at this point, paired in this case with a black coated blade, although you can get some of these colors with a regular satin blade as well. But the Kobun's always been a really cool knife, so I happened to pull this one for the moment. We've got a 5.5 inch blade, I want to say. Yes, AUS 8 steel in this case. Very kind of old school cold steel, classic Western Tonto. You've got hollow ground main section and a flat ground tip with that very abrupt change in angle. And a very thin knife overall, not just in the blade steel, which is a little over 3/32 of an inch. The what do they call theirs? Krayax. Their rubberized handles are nice and slim as well, and yet they still manage to get a hint of contour in, and of course all of that texture, which is going to help you maintain a solid hold on this knife. And they actually advertise this as a boot knife. You know, it's certainly very tactical in nature without weighing you down, but it's set up with this clip right here. Whether you have boots that'll fit that, this will also carry nicely inside the waistband if you want to do it as such. Not so much pocket carry, it's probably a little bit too big for that. But just like the Meatcrafter we looked at earlier, large or small tech locks will also be compatible with this if you want a more standard type of belt attachment. But it's Securex, it holds in quite nicely, and you've got that fairly lightweight for its size fixed blade on hand. 4.1 ounces for a 5.5 inch full strength blade. Very cool. All right, next we have a Microtech and Microtech Ultratech signature series. This one's coming in a little bit over $1,000, and it carries that price tag because this is part of their signature series, which gets all the kind of bells and whistles thrown at it. First off here, carbon fiber on the front side of the aluminum chassis, and of course a Damascus blade, and look at that pattern. Very cool, very geometric and regular kind of crisscross or chevron pattern, not crisscross, but zigzag pattern. That's the word I was looking for. Looks absolutely excellent. I'm pretty sure, actually, I'm not sure whether it's stainless or carbon steel. I'm unaware of that, but it's even lighter than a standard Ultratech too because of that carbon fiber in this case. Weight is not listed on the webpage, but it is a little bit lighter feeling, especially because I just held some Ultratechs earlier this week in the video we posted then. But it's got that same great Microtech action. Like, it's resounding in a way. I've got my elbow kind of resting on the table here just by happenstance, and like the whole table is vibrating just a little bit as I do this. It's almost earth shaking in that regard. Very, very cool. Of course, we have a lot of standard Ultratechs. If this is too rich for your blood, you're getting the same great platform. Next up, we have got a manual, an imported Microtech actually. These are ones they had made by Reich Knife to, in a way, not even hit a lower price point for a SOCOM, but in order to get a more widely available manual SOCOM out there, and they went fancier with it to kind of keep the price up a little bit in a way. They didn't go for like a bargain basement version. They wanted to go kind of do it right, do something really worthy of the Microtech name, really fancy at the same time. This is the almost full serrated version. The front section of the Tanto blade is of course plain edged, as you can see. Handle, you've got those same great SOCOM ergonomics. I really always have appreciated the wide thumb pad on this knife frame right here. That is maintained. Just a really solid feel. Titanium for the handles, carbon fiber inlays on each side, milled pocket clip, as you can see there. With the titanium frame lock, you can see your lock bar insert there, right on the end to keep that lockup between the titanium, well, between steel and steel rather than being titanium on steel. So you've got nice longevity built in right there. Ball bearings in the pivot. Thick blade stock maintains the tactical rigidity of the original. Nice oversized thumb studs that really launch that blade out there, no problem. I haven't really tried it yet, but we do have this wide fuller. Never mind, it is buried in the handle, so you're not really going to be doing any reverse flicking or anything like that. Which is okay when the standard flick is as satisfying as that is. Did I mention the blade steel?
Nope.
M390, 4 inches long. Very cool. Let's go a lot smaller now with the next one. 2.68 inches, in fact, the Boker Plus Canoe. And this one always throws me for a little bit of a loop as I'm thinking about stuff, because Boker makes a lot of traditional slip joints, and the Canoe is a traditional slip joint pattern, and yet this Canoe is anything but a traditional slip joint. What you have here is a titanium handled frame lock with S35 VN steel for the blade. Comes in about $160 right now. Really cool shape. This is a design by Joe Mangiafico, as you can see there at the end. And really, I just wanted to say that because I know how to pronounce his name right now, and I'm really proud of that. So, gotta say it. Mangiafico. I think he's Italian, obviously. Anyway.
Let him have this moment.
Cool small knife. Very, very elegant in a way, very gentlemanly. The colors are nice. They're subtle, or they're colorful while still being subtle at the same time. Blue with kind of brass accented colors, brass anodized colors. Stone-washed frame, stone-washed blade. Great little shape. 3.5 finger grip for me. It's just really classy, man. Folds up nicely. You've got nice flickability with the dual thumb studs right there. Fairly deep carry on the pocket clip. And if you're wearing this in a pair of khakis, it's a color on that pocket clip that's gonna blend in pretty nicely too. It's always something worth considering. Nice bonus. Fairly neutral handle here too, man. This is just a thing that just works. I think this would work as a like maybe 3.25 inch blade size too. Like this is something that I think that would scale really nicely. So maybe there's some line extensions in the future. Purely conjecture on my part. I know nothing about this.
He knows other things.
I know other things, ostensibly. But yeah, just a really cool little design. Built super well, nice and crisp. Everything's as you want it to be, quite honestly. Another Boker, speaking of slip joints, a lot of you have been asking about this. I mean, a lot of you have been asking about this since our Blade Show coverage earlier this year. This is the Koteyka. Probably. Designed by Alexander Krava, who is a Ukrainian knife designer. And this one's kind of fun. I love the shape of it. And the best way to describe it, and please don't take this as anything less than charitable. This is not supposed to be mean at all. I just think it's really funny and kind of illustrates this. It's as if someone tried to draw a Barlow pocket knife with their eyes closed. But I'll be darned if the end result here doesn't work, great as a cohesive looking design, and also it's going to be a great usable design. I mean, I genuinely love the shape we've got going on here. And the price is great too, 46 bucks and a little bit of change for this knife. D2 steel, just over 2.5 inches, flat ground, full flat grind, swedge here, file work on the spine, essentially 3 passes of file work. You've got the one coming in perpendicular to the spine, or whatever this would be, and then you've got essentially individual little chamfers, like chamfered file work on each side. So 3 passes essentially there, 2 passes along the swedge. That's a lot of machine time, a lot of steps for such an inexpensive knife, especially when you throw in the kind of aggressive corn cob jigging on the G10 handle scales there. It's really cool. Now, I love the little modified sheep's foot. Well, what do we even want to call that blade? We're calling it a modified sheep's foot on the website. I don't know, man. I don't know what I'd call that, actually.
I know.
It is not a reverse Tonto, Thomas. I'm very sorry.
I'll with that.
Let's come up with some better jokes, I think, people. I don't know. What do we want to call that? I don't know. There's something really cool about it, though. It could be a modified sheep's foot. It could be a modified Warncliffe, maybe. I don't know. It carries the before it drops way out there towards the end. It's cool, nonetheless. I think this would even look cool if it were like intentionally recurved a little bit. It would give it even more kind of snaky good looks. But
Snake point.
I've heard you say worse things.
This is true.
Today. One of the nice things about this blade shape, though, because the point is essentially so dropped and you're dealing with a slip joint here, if you're using that tip to pierce anything, the angle of pressure is kind of pushing back into the back spring a little bit. So it's a little bit less likely than if the tip were higher for that to accidentally start to close on you, because of course no lock. You have to think about how you're cutting things a little bit more intentionally. As far as the action, there's no half stop. It's just single, consistent pull all the way through. You've got that long pull on the one side. Bravo. Just a really well done product. So speaking of modified Barlows, we'll call it that, how about the Finch Knife Company 1929 Barlow? I like this as well. And this is one that's almost as if someone drew out a Barlow and then took it into their image editor and stretched it this way, kind of fattened it up a little bit. But darned if I don't love the way it came out too. It's kind of a bulbous Barlow. 2.5 inch blade, 154 cm steel, horizontal grained finish, which is always a nice touch that Finch kind of carries through most of their designs. It's nice because as you wipe your blade off after use, your finger streaks are gonna go along with the finish of the blade itself. And then they carry that through into the integral bolsters on the handle as well. This looks like olive wood. It is indeed olive wood for the inlays here. There's a couple different materials available. That's covering up the frame lock there on the back side. You've got a milled clip. Front side, again, you've got the Finch logo on the shield in that inlay, which it's inlaid into the inlay. This is like one of those like, yo dog, we heard you like inlays, so we put inlays on your inlays thing.
Really laying into that one, aren't you?
Whatever. It's glow in the dark too, which is cool. Flipper, so it's not a slip joint style Barlow. We've got ball bearing pivots, got great little flipping action. Man, what Finch is doing is really cool because they're just excellently made knives, first of all, but they're marching to their own beat. They're not kind of doing what everyone else is doing. They're not trying to attack quite the same genres. They've got a vision for the kind of knives they want to make, and they're doing a fantastic job at it. Very cool indeed. Well, that's all I have to show you for this episode. Let me know what you thought of the knives and if you want to get your hands on any of them. Links in the description will take you over to KnifeCenter.com. And don't forget, we've got our Knife Rewards program, because if you are going to spend your money on one of these knives, don't you want to earn some free money to spend on your next one? I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera. We're signing off. See you next time.